State of Wisconsin. State of Wisconsin versus Demetrius Conley, 19 CF 1926, appearance please.
Jim Griffin for the state.
Demetrius Conley appears in person with Attorney Gabriel Hogan.
Council, can you take your mic off? Thank you.
Mr. Conley, good morning and welcome, sir, and welcome to both attorneys. Counsel both, if you could make a statement as to why we're here.
Judge, we're here for sentencing today.
The underlying charge, party to burglary, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Statement of maximum penalty,
Maximum penalty is 12 and a half years in prison, bifurcated into 7.5 years of initial confinement and 5 years of extended supervision. There is a fine, but I assume the court doesn't need to know the fine amount.
the amount,
The fine, I think is up. Give you 1 second.
25,000.
Yeah, that's correct. $25,000.
right? At the time of the change of plea, were there discussions by the attorneys? And if so, they were stated at the time, could they also be noted to me now?
Yes, sir. 1 second. It's all online now, if you know, Judge. It just takes me a second to get from document to document. The state is recommending 18 months of initial confinement and 36 months of extended supervision. Defense is free to argue. The state is also requesting restitution in the amount of $250. There was a victim impact statement filed, and I spoke with counsel. I don't believe there's a dispute. I believe there'll be a stipulation to that amount.
That's correct.
All right, thank you. I want to hear obviously from both sides. There's been a letter received today from Rihanna Sterling. I believe, counsel, you presented that?
Yes.
And I've had a chance to read that. Has the state received that?
I did, and I did read it.
All right, first district attorney then.
Well, I'll just start with that in late June of this year, there was an armed robbery at Dunham's. The defendant was a suspect in that armed robbery. There were some women who went in and did the armed robbery, and according to the notes from the ADA in that case, Mr. Conley drove them to this armed robbery. He did not charge Mr. Conley. He indicated that without testimony from these women, we don't really have evidence against him, which would indicate that the women somehow had implicated him. But for obvious reasons, when all you have is co-actor statements, that's not a good case. But I read the letter from his fiance and then saw that, and I thought that was an unusual contrast, if you will. In 2000, Judge, although it was a while ago, there was a sexual assault case. He was found guilty, and he is now a registered sex offender. That was a case of a child under 13 was the initial charge. I'm not sure how it ultimately got resolved. In 2004, there was a burglary. He pled guilty to that. He was given 6 years in prison. It looks like 4 in, 2 out. And in a different case in 2004, there was another burglary. He was given 4 in, 2 out concurrent to the other sentence that I just mentioned. In 2016, he was found guilty of a sex offender registry violation. And was ordered to serve 45 days in the House of Correction. And now this case, another burglary. Some time has passed since his more serious other burglaries in 2004. And I think that when you look at that record and read the criminal complaint here, this is his 3rd burglary conviction. He was at least right on the line for an armed robbery. Obviously, I know the court's going to not give that much weight because he was not charged, but it did happen. And he did apparently, at the very least, drive these women to that store, and that was not last month, we're in August already, in June. the sentence here is less than he got on his last couple burglaries, but a lot of time has passed. So that to me makes sense. And of course, we're in a different time period in terms of what we're trying to do with guys, given the pandemic, et cetera. So I'm asking that the court follow the state's recommendation. Thank you.
Council, thank you. Council.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Can you check your mic one more time, please? Or closer? Thank you.
How's that?
Thank you.
Sure, sorry about that.
That's all right.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just preliminary statement. Mr. Conley does have family here and his girlfriend, Shirley Conley, his mother, Renee Sterling, his girlfriend, and Drew Conley, his daughter, are all present in court.
All right.
I believe that Ms. Shirley Conley would like to address the court at some point after my statements.
You determine when you wish to have her make her statement.
So, Mr. Conley comes before the court, 39 years old. He was born in Milwaukee, and he's accepted responsibility for the offense in this case. He comes from a rather large extended family and has a lot of support in the community, and that's for sure. He was, when he was 6, his parents, I believe, split up, and he went to live with his grandmother, who he was quite close to, and stayed with her until he was 17. He does have a daughter, Drew Conley, who's 9 years old. And of significance here, Your Honor, her mother died in 2014 of cancer. So when she was just 3 years old. And Mr. Conley has been her, has full custody and is the sole provider for Drew. He talks about her all the time. They're obviously really quite close. And that's going to inform part of our recommendation for probation. That Mr. Conley really needs to be there for his daughter, has been for his daughter. This is something, again, he's been the sole provider and has had, sole placement. He's done everything for her since the last 6 years. As far as Mr. Conley's background, he started high school in Custer, but dropped out in the 10th grade, got his high school diploma in 2006, and went on to get a certificate in cabinetry from Oregon Technical College. Mr. Conley is actually quite an intelligent man who I think really likes working with his hands. In addition to the cabinetry stuff he does, he works as a mechanic when he can. Mr. Conley did suffer was in a car accident in 2015, which apparently caused some pretty significant injury to his spine at C6 and 7, broad-based disc protrusion measuring 5 millimeters at C4 and 5, and also at C6 and 7. So he does have that physical kind of limitation. Mr. Conley's employment history is pretty good. He started working as a teenager when he was 14. He worked summers at Zorba's on the Summerfest grounds. Other employment he's held, I think his longest period of employment was from 2010 to 2014 at Fastech as a manager there. He's also worked at Valvoline, oil change place. That was his last real steady work in 2015. When he had a car accident, he tried to return to work. In 2016, he was working at a finishing factory in Hartford that he got through a temp service, but ultimately involved too much heavy lifting and standing. His back just couldn't handle it. So that's kind of his employment history. Mental health wise, he has suffered from anxiety, depression, he was incarcerated, he was in prison, he was on medications, citalopram, trazodone, Seroquel. So, those types of medications indicate to me that he had fairly significant, anxiety and depression. He has also been to the mental health conference a few times in the past. Have been felt like he's at risk of self-harming himself. His daughter, again, they're very close, and he describes her as a big part of his support system. Mr. Conley doesn't have, I don't think, a significant substance use issues at this time. When he got out of prison, he was using alcohol pretty much per his report. He says he's managed to stop that, or it's not a problem for him now, but I think any kind of iota assessment would be warranted. Other street drugs, marijuana, things like that, doesn't seem to be a problem for him though. Now, when you look at the gravity of this offense, it's a burglary, so of course that's a concern. People want to feel like they're safe in their homes. This kind of offense really does, I think, impact people. But I think it's very significant in this case. The victim impact statement, which I don't know if the court's had an opportunity to look at that, but it's one of the most thoughtful victim impact statements I've heard. I mean, he expresses that he felt a little upset for about a week or so, which is understandable. But he goes on to talk about seeing what can be done to help Mr. Conley and keep him on the right path. On the second page of the victim impact statement, he makes a couple of really kind of interesting points. Toward the bottom of the page, he writes, Courtney is an advocate, in this case, for extending forgiveness, but also demanding responsibility. And I think that that's really, in this particular case, what good advice to the court, I guess, in terms of fashioning a sentence. Talks about middle of the page. He says definitely some counseling and probation should be involved in order to ensure compliance with the law. Again, I think that's spot on in terms of what would be appropriate in terms of fashioning a sentence in this case. So I think the state's recommendation is certainly not unreasonable, but in Mr. Conley's case, particularly given the fact that he is the sole provider for his 9-year-old daughter, I think the court should consider probation. He does have rehabilitative needs. I think both, as I said, an good assessment would be appropriate, but also a mental health component to this. I think that his anxiety and depression probably lead to some feelings of hopelessness that lead to this kind of behavior. So that would be the state's defense recommendation. Also, given the current public health crisis, I think both Mr. Conley and the community are safer with him on probation and helping needs and being able to take care of his daughter. As I mentioned, he's an intelligent man. I believe he's a really good candidate for doing well on probation. This is kind of before I had Ms. Conley come up and speak. I just want to address the court state's opening remarks about this no process case. I'm not sure about all the details about it, but it's my understanding that Mr. Conley didn't know any of the individuals to get a ride to. They have offered to pay him, I think he was driving his brother out to Franklin and out and paying gas money to get a ride. It's my understanding. So I don't know, I don't think it should be something the court considers anyways, the process, but just kind of want to give a little more detail about that. So that being said, if this comment
Certainly. If Ms. Conley could come forward. You can be seated there, madam.
Not on the Zoom there, Madam Clerk.
I'm gonna admit her now.
Okay.
Okay, I want to start off by saying.
Hang on.
And can you ask her to say the name?
If we could begin, could you state your full name, please, ma'am?
Shirley J. Conley.
Shirley Jane Conley. Madam, now make your statement.
Okay, I want to start off by saying how you going, Your Honor. Okay, first my son, I don't know first him being guilty or first, being clearly guilty. But right now, first his daughter, I was helping her with his daughter, and right now I'm kind of sick, so I feel that, first him being incarcerated. Oh, Lord. Okay, give me a time. I know better than this. But first, being getting incarcerated or whatever, and me and him, me and his fiance help take care of the baby. My grandbaby, but now it's like I can't take care of her.
Take a couple of moments, ma'am.
But he people be able to take care of his grandbaby. My grandbaby. Because I was helping him take care of her and everything, but now it's like I'm getting more sicker. And I really can't help him that much no more to take care of her. So, far as him, I don't know what you're gonna do.
Deputy, thank you.
To be honest. That's like, first, the daughter, that's his daughter, that's his only daughter, and I was there for him to help him take care of her, but now it's like I can't help him too much no more, and, for his childcare or whatever you can get him. I'll see me his daughter, and the mother is gone, so it was just me and him and his fiance taking care of her, but she works. And, really, I'd be there for her. But I'm asking, in the name of the grace of God, that can just show him leniency and let him take care of his daughter, because I can't do it, help him anymore. Because I'm sick myself. But if you give him childcare or whatever, I appreciate it. And I don't know what else to say. I can't say anymore.
Ma'am, thank you for your statement and the showing that you made in terms of the care and love you have for your son.
Yes.
I'm going to return now to the attorney. Counsel, anything more? Certainly. Mr. Conley, any statement you wish to make, sir?
I'm sorry, I can't do you.
Out of all people.
I'm sorry, I can't do you.
Can you put the mic down towards his mouth?
Are you able to speak a good bit louder, sir?
I know I committed a crime and I know that I have to be punished for it. Consequences for my actions. During this whole process, my biggest concern was with my daughter. And because I feel that all she got, we took back her mother's home. And, you know, my mother's last dying wishes was that my daughter be there for me. And I just feel like it's such a big disappointment. Concerning the no process thing, I just barely do drugs a lot. Like, in my life, that's all what I do. I listen a lot. But this whole year has been, this is the biggest thing I've been thinking about. I don't know how to ask for forgiveness. I don't know what I can do. But I just don't want to be on my part. That's my answer.
All right, you make a very good statement. I do have some questions of you. Are you now married? Again, look toward me so I can.
No,
Were you ever married to the mother of the child?
no.
Has paternity been established so that it's determined that by a court that you are the father for this child, your daughter?
Yeah.
Was that here in Milwaukee County? Is the child now placed with you? For how long has your daughter, age 9, been placed with you? How long ago was that? Roughly 6 years or so? You had that automobile accident that your attorney talked to, and you tried to do some work in the year, hit by a car. And then you tried to go to work and you weren't able to do that because of the injuries you sustained. Are you now receiving SSI, Social Security Disability? Okay. In terms of the use of particular alcohol or controlled substance, when did you begin to use either alcohol or a controlled substance? All right, thank you. And to the attorneys, thank you for your input. Sir, you're to be sentenced on the offense, the crime of party to burglary. Maximum penalties need to be stated. 12.5 years are the max, divided 7.5 initial confinement and 5 extended supervision. The maximum dollar penalty is $25,000. You're a young man, you're 39 years of age. You do have a prior record that is troublesome. Sexual assault for a child under the age of 13. There are 2 burglaries in 2004, and you were in prison for that. In 2016, you were found to have violated the sexual offender registration, and you received a minimal sentence because of that. You have, in terms of your education, in the 10th grade, you dropped out of school, but then you did return and did get your high school diploma, I believe in 2006. Is that correct, sir? In addition, you've received a certificate relative to your work in cabinetry. And apparently, as been pointed out, you have special skills and ability in that area. You're not married. The mother of your only child died in 2006, as you pointed out, or rather 2014. And your daughter has been with you since that time. Do you have any other birth children besides this daughter? You have a son. How old is your son? And are you married to that woman, the mother of that child? Has paternity been established as to that child? Does that child reside or live with you? Again, you have good family support. The statement by your mother was very powerful. Also, you received a letter from Miss Rihanna Sterling, your fiance, that again was very supportive to you. In terms of your employment record, you've worked really since age 14, the Zorba experience. Worked at Fast Track for about 4 years, oil change at Valvoline and some other temporary jobs. But because of the injuries you sustained when you were struck by this vehicle, it's your judgment at least that you're not able to work, although you have not either applied for or received Social Security disability at this point. Your demeanor in court has been very fine. It's indicated through your attorney that you're on meds, particularly dealing with anxiety. You have a history of abuse of chemicals since age 15, as you pointed out. Now, the offense here relates to both person and property. It goes to property, but it affects the individuals who are the victims, so it affects person. It is aggravated because of your past record, and it's an offense for which you are fully responsible or culpable. The public has a right to be safe. And if we personalize that, Mr. Conley, that means as to your mother, your fiance, and your daughter, they have a basic right to safety and to be protected as to person and property. But those same rights exist as to everyone else. Certainly, I must consider your rehabilitation needs as well. And then the gravity of the offense involved here, again, a felony. And I take into consideration as well, and your attorney pointed it out well, the statements of the victim in this particular case as well. But given all the information that's been presented, excuse me, counsel, yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Right, I just have meds, not psychotropic. And I thought you related the taking of the meds to the back pain issue that he has, as opposed to psychotropics. All right. Now, given all the information that's been provided, and giving particular weight again to the past record that can't be ignored, I do find that a period of confinement is necessary under the facts of this case. I find that Mr. Conley is in need of correctional and rehabilitative treatment, and that can most effectively be provided within the Department of Corrections system. And that at this point, a sentence simply of probation would unduly depreciate the seriousness of this offense, not generally, but in the context of the record of Mr. Conley. Now, given all of that, I'm going to order as follows. The order of the court, Mr. Conley, that you be committed to the Wisconsin State Prison System for a term of 14 months, and that's to be a period of initial confinement. Credit for time served, how many days? 4 days credit for time served as well. In addition, that's to be followed by a period of 24 months of extended supervision. In terms of the extended supervision, court notes the following. Restitution is set in the amount of $250. My understanding, there's not disagreement as to that amount. Is that correct? All right.
And that'd be payable to R, what the,
First name and last name.
Russell A.
I'm not imposing any fine. I find you don't have an ability to pay, and that would be inappropriate to impose. However, the mandatory court costs and state surcharges are to be paid, and those are to be a part of the sentence in the case. Counseling is to occur as the department deems appropriate. I want the agent as well to check and double check to be sure paternity is established. I hope you live a long, long life, Mr. Connolly, but I want to be sure if anything were to happen to you, that your children, both your daughter and your son, would receive the benefits of Social Security, and that would only occur if paternity is established. Again, sex offender registration has already occurred, DNA specimen. You may never possess a firearm in your entire life. You may not vote until your civil liberties have been restored. You're to be eligible within the prison system for both the challenge or boot camp and the substance abuse program if both you wish to participate in them and the department is able to determine your eligibility. District Attorney, any other terms and conditions?
Judge, I would ask you to order no contact with the victim and no contact with the scene of the crime, that address.
Yes, no contact with the victim in this case and or the scene of the crime.
Other than that, nothing further.
Counselor, anything more you would want done in terms of services to be provided? Anything more you want me to emphasize? All right. Yes, you're to have a right to appeal. Counsel, you're going to take care of that yet today. And I filled out the conditions of probation and the explanation of determinate sentence and give that to the clerk, and she'll provide a copy to Mr. Connolly. Okay, good.
Somebody bring handcuffs to you or not? Nolan.
Sorry, Justin.
No, no.
The live stream.